Right, so if you're struggling with getting going with a difficult task, you can give the 5-minute rule a go. What all this involves is you just have to set a timer for 5 minutes, whatever it is that you're going to do. Give it a go, start the ball rolling, whether that's opening up your lecture slide, opening the door, getting your coat on, getting your shoes on, beginning a walk, seeing how that goes after the timer's up. If you feel as though at the end of that 5 minutes you're motivated to continue, chances are you've started that ball in motion. Brilliant, continue, set another timer, see how that goes. But if actually you're not feeling it after the 5 minutes, that's okay, and that's something that you've really achieved during that day, something you've set out to do, you've completed it, and if you want to try it again later, give it a go.
Grounding techniques are really useful if you're feeling distressed. Here are a few things that you can do. You can look around the room, you can notice the sounds that are happening around you, you can notice what's happening in your body, stand up and move around, or you can try the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method. Name 5 things that you can see, name 4 things that you can hear, you can name 3 things that you can touch, name 2 things that you can smell or that you like the smell of, and take 1 big deep breath in.
Worries are futuristic, and so we tend to worry about things that are yet to happen. There are 2 types of worries, however. We have what we call the practical worries and the hypothetical worries. Practical worries are worries that have a practical solution to them, or worries that we can do something about in the here and now. Hypothetical worries, on the other hand, are worries that we can't do anything about in the here and now, no matter how hard we try. My advice to anyone struggling with worries is to take some time and reflect on the type of worries that they're having. Write them down and ask yourself the question, can I do anything about these worries now or not? If you can do something about them, put an action plan in place and execute it. If you can't do anything about them, however, try your possible best to focus in the here and now, because remember that worrying in itself is not going to change the fair outcome. It is what you do now that is going to determine what the future is going to be.
There's lots of things that we think about when we talk about self-care, and a lot of people jump straight away to the whole idea of treating yourself, having a bath, painting your nails, doing something cliche. But realistically, there's lots of practical things that you can do to help with self-care. Simple things like opening the curtains when you get up in the morning, putting your socks in the wash basket rather than all over the floor. They sound really cliche, but actually if you can get into the habit of doing those things, it can really change your mindset for the day.
Right, so doing something physically challenging, I think, is quite underrated, and I really appreciate the value of it because it really puts you in a survival mode. I think especially if you're struggling with anxiety, this is really good practice. So, go for a challenging cycle ride or lifting some stuff, of course, with proper care, is really useful. And one of the key things is if you could wake up earlier, perhaps 1 hour earlier than your usual time, I think that would be a really good tip to challenge yourself.
So social anxiety is far more common than you might think. Lots of people really worry about what other people are thinking about them, but in reality, most people are mainly concerned with themselves and aren't actually thinking or judging others in the way that you might fear. It's important to be as kind to yourself as you would be to a friend or relative that you really care about. Start with small baby steps. Maybe you could ask a friend that you trust to walk to your lectures with you. Remember to keep breathing. Deliberately feel your feet on the ground as you walk. This helps direct your energy down from your anxious thoughts and into the rhythm of your body. Distract yourself by taking in your environment using all of your senses. What can you see? What can you hear? What can you smell? And what can you feel on your skin? Why not imagine things that you're scared of going well? It's all too easy to imagine the worst and to allow fear to get the better of us, so try doing it a bit differently this time.
Okay, so if you're having any difficulties getting off to sleep, give the 20-minute rule a go. And so if you're laying there, maybe 20 minutes have passed, you're not feeling tired yet, you're not feeling like you're going to be able to go off, take yourself out of bed, go to a different part of the house or a different part of your room, just engage in a very low impact type of activity, something like reading or mindful colouring, something like that. Then after you start to feel a bit tired, return back to bed and give it another try. Most important thing to say is to not, when you've returned to bed, not constantly clock watch to see, I've only got 6 hours sleep now, I've only got 5 hours sleep now. And the other thing as well is make sure that your environment's comfortable. So make sure it's a good temperature, not too hot, not too cold. Make sure as well that prior to getting started with sleep, you limit your caffeine intake. And as well, be mindful of blue light as well, so that you get from your TVs, phones, or laptops. Most laptops and phones have a blue light filter you can turn on as well, which I recommend doing a few hours before bed, just so that you're shutting out some of that light that can keep you awake and active.
Ensure that you're looking after yourself before you look after others. Speak up if someone has upset you, and be prepared to listen if you are told that you've upset someone else. And communicate any difficult topics that you find particularly difficult and that might have an impact on your own mental health.
So if you're experiencing grief, this is my favorite tip. So in the experience of grief, I think time can be your worst enemy or your best friend, depending on how you use it. So this technique is called the zigzag technique, or the two-way technique, where you sort of swing back and forth between grief. So the idea is to take yourself to this deep, dark experience for a specific time of the day, perhaps in the morning or at night, and then you stay with that feeling or the depression of the grief for let's say 20 minutes, 45 minutes, and then you take yourself out of that consciously and go about your normal day-to-day life. So that's the essence of it. So make sure to take yourself out of that experience physically and emotionally, and go about some productive activity, even if you don't feel productive. But very important disclaimer, if you feel scared to go to this place alone, don't do it. You probably want to do it with someone else.
If you've got things on your mind, my first advice would always be to talk to somebody, but I know that doesn't always feel manageable. So something that's always worked for me is just putting pen to paper. It sounds cliche, but writing things down can really help, just to get things out of your head and process what's going on for you. Try not to worry too much about what you're writing. If it makes sense, if it's neat, just get whatever thoughts are in your head down on paper. And once you've done that, it's entirely up to you what you do with that. You don't necessarily have to show anyone. You could rip it up, you could burn it. It's just a way for you to kind of process the things that you're thinking and get those thoughts out, really.